The Senate impeachment trial has begun, and there's a lot going on when it comes to the types of documents that can be subpoenaed and the types of witnesses that will be allowed to testify during the Senate impeachment trial. One thing that really stood out, though, was how Mitch McConnell put forth a resolution that was disastrous and clearly was meant to rig the Senate impeachment trial in Trump's favor. But there was some pushback by moderate Republicans, and he ended up changing his resolution a little bit. So originally, House impeachment managers would have 24 hours over 2 days to make their opening arguments when they begin to present their case against President Trump to the Senate Wednesday. President Trump's team similarly would have 2 days to present their arguments, and then senators would have a chance to ask questions and consider subpoenas of witnesses. The resolution also provided 16 hours for senators to ask questions. The resolution would not require additional witnesses to be subpoenaed and would not allow House prosecutors to admit evidence into the Senate trial record until after the opening arguments are heard, right? So the rules that McConnell was trying to craft here did deviate from how the impeachment trial was conducted during the Clinton impeachment. Okay, so in another departure from the 1999 organizing resolution, McConnell's measure would not allow evidence from the House impeachment inquiry to be entered into the Senate trial record until after the question of additional witnesses and documents received consideration or receives consideration. So luckily, there are moderate, I don't mean to say moderate Republicans. I don't think they're moderate at all. There are vulnerable Republicans in the Senate who are facing tough re-election bids, and they met with McConnell and they're like, yo, look, I need to appeal to my constituents here, and this resolution is far too right-wing and far too slanted in favor of Trump. So there needs to be a little, give and take here. And so at that point, McConnell did change some of the resolution. So what he is now doing is he's allowing for 3 days worth of opening statements from both sides rather than 2. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah. So no, look. It's better to have 3 instead of 2 days because they won't be doing this in the middle of the night. And obviously Trump is obsessed with TV, so that's why he was trying to get them to do it in the middle of the night so less people would watch. And so it's a little bit more reasonable. But the most important thing is what Anna alluded to. Why? It's because there's now polling out showing 70% of Americans, including a majority of Republican voters, think that they should call more witnesses. So when the Susan Collins and the Cory Gardners see that, those vulnerable Republicans who might lose their seats, they go, whoa, 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 I don't want to go against 7 out of 10 Americans. So Mitch, do a better job of doing a fake trial. If we don't have any witnesses and we rush this through in 2 days, at least the House presentation in 2 days, it'll look like more of a sham trial. Let's have a sham trial, but make it appear less shamish.
Right, exactly. That way, I mean, they really think that it will help them with their reelection. And so let's just go to what some of these vulnerable Republicans had to say. So without comment, the Republican leader quietly, that's Mitch McConnell, submitted an amended proposal after meeting behind closed doors with his senators as the trial opened. The handwritten changes would add the extra day and allow House evidence to be included in the record. Right? I mean, why wouldn't they include that evidence? The handwritten changes, also there's still deep disagreement about calling additional witnesses. That's one of the things that they've been deliberating all day in the Senate. And I do want to cut away to this video of Adam Schiff. I want to be fair to Schiff. I've been very critical of how Democrats have handled this. They have lacked any and all enthusiasm. It seems like they're not even fighting in this impeachment investigation. However, Schiff's statements on the Senate floor were strong today, and I do appreciate it. And here he is during a press conference talking about the resolution that McConnell put forth.
We could see why this resolution was kept from us and from the American people. This is nothing like the process that was used in the Clinton trial. In the Clinton trial, both Senate leadership worked out a bipartisan proposal for how the trial would be conducted. That obviously has not happened here. In the Clinton case, if we're truly following the Clinton precedent, all of the documents were provided before the trial, more than 90,000 of them. Does this resolution provide for the president to provide the documents before the trial? No, it does not. Without the documents, You can't make important judgments about even which witnesses should be called. It is also a deep departure from Clinton, where all of the witnesses testified before the Senate trial. The issue in the Clinton trial was not whether they would testify. They had testified already. This resolution even goes so far in another departure from the Clinton precedent to say they're not even going to admit the evidence that was received in the House. And finally, they are compressing the time of the trial. Whereas the Clinton trial, managers had 6 hours a day to present over a course of days. They're now presenting that we double the amount of time each day so that the proceedings can conceivably go well into the night when apparently Senator McConnell hopes the American people will not be watching.
Look, I think that this is the right way to play it. I would attack vulnerable Republicans in the Senate harder though. Name names, right? Because this impeachment trial, we all know how it's gonna end. We know that the Senate is not gonna vote in favor of removing Trump, but that's not the point. The point is to get these lawmakers on the record enabling the criminality of Donald Trump and attack those vulnerable Republicans in the Senate as aggressively as possible. Name those names, get them voted out, and create a situation in which Democrats can take back the Senate.
Yeah, my favorite absurdity is, well, what happened in the House? We're not even going to count that.
So stupid.
What difference does it make? We all already saw it. And it's not like you would take the evidence and have an impartial jury and go, oh my God, I didn't know that. You guys already know it. You're also, most of the Republicans are going to vote with Trump anyway. And so, but some of the witnesses could make a difference. Are they going to allow for John Bolton to testify? Could make a big difference.
I mean, big difference in what regard? Do you think that Bolton's testimony is going to change how Republicans handle this?
So look, the questions are for polling and in those Senate seats that you talk about that are the vulnerable Republicans, right? Because if Bolton testifies and the whole place explodes with, yeah, now here is the National Security Advisor for Donald Trump saying, yeah, there was definitely a deal. It was to target Biden. I'm amused that the Lev Parnas thing is a surprise, right? Like, oh, it turns out he didn't want to target anyone in Ukraine. He wasn't actually worried about the Ukrainian corruption. He was targeting Joe and Hunter Biden. He's never said a Ukrainian name. He never talked to this day. Trump has never talked about anyone who's corrupt in Ukraine other than Joe and Hunter Biden.
It's because they're all corrupt.
Yeah. So Parnas, if Bolton says the same stuff, anyway, it piles up and it piles up. And is it possible that Collins, Gardner, and some others, but you have to go much deeper than that. They look at their poll numbers in Arizona and they've lost the whole country. And they think, now it's becoming absolutely overwhelming. It's not gonna overwhelm the MAGA guys, everybody knows that. But is it gonna overwhelm independents where they go, come on guys, he's obviously guilty. By the way, new poll out. Again, 51% of Americans say he should be removed from office. That's a majority of Americans. Removed from office, they should convict and kick him out. And even the White House knows it. The White House is now also arguing that if there was a conviction, and this is scary, they say it would be an unconstitutional conviction and that they might not have to abide by it.
That doesn't surprise, I mean, that statement does not surprise me at all, right?
But then you know what?
You roll around in bed with fascists, don't be surprised when you end up with a fascist government.
Totally, but in that scenario, which is insane, the military would have to remove Trump from the building. And I think they would.